Starting with lecture. Okay. So, a patient heads up to you complaining of pain in his low back. Now, what do? First part is to carefully assess the patient and make the diagnosis. Always start by taking a detailed history of the patient. Let's see what questions do you ask and the probable conclusions you can make from it. So the first question is, what is the patient's age? Now, as you know, different conditions affect different age groups, right? So, as you can see, discogenic problems usually affect the people in age of 15 to 40 years. Ankylosing spondylitis is usually reported by the age of 45 years and not more than that. Degenerative changes leading to conditions like osteoarthritis and spondylosis are usually seen after the age of 45 years of age. Malignancies or tumors of spine report usually after 50s or in 60s. Moving on to the next question, what is the patient's occupation? Asking the patient's occupation gives therapists an idea as in how demanding the profession could be. Like for the construction workers, they require lifting and twisting heavy weights, which makes them much more prone to develop lumbar problems. On the other hand, even 12 hours of desk job, sitting at one place, wrong posture, like you can see, sitting with crossed legs, can also make one prone. Now knowing the patient's gender would also help you to reach the diagnosis. Like ankylosing spondylitis is much more commoner in males as compared to the females. Similarly, females in their middle ages usually have weak muscles due to multiple pregnancies, and this makes them much more prone. Moving on to another question and a very important one. What was the mechanism of injury? Knowing this gets very important for the therapist as it tells about what structures would have been involved. Imagine traveling in a bus, getting a sudden jerk, and then going into hyperextension. Now, this causes locking of the lumbar facet joint, as you can see in the picture. Now, this not only results in pain but also causes decreased range of motion, and even falls, especially in the elderly people, also results in lumbar pain. Not only this, but also one gets an idea as in it is a macro trauma or an accumulating micro trauma. Moving on, ask the patient how long has the pain bothered him. Now, for this we have a classification: acute, subacute, and chronic. Acute means ranging from 3 to 4 weeks, subacute 12 weeks, and more than 12 weeks or 3 months makes it chronic. Now, people having chronic pain usually develop a condition called as deconditioning syndrome over time. Now, this results in decreased muscle strength, impaired motor control, decreased coordination, and poor postural control, which further complicates the situation more. Moving on, you ask the patient a very important question: what are the sites and boundaries of the patient? Now, you simply ask the patient to point to the location of the pain. Now, it can be a specific point or can be a diffused area involving larger area. Now, Hall broke pattern of back pain into two parts. One back dominant and one leg dominant. So pattern 1 and pattern 2 falls into back dominant. That means the source of pain is the lumbar spine, while the pain is also represented and felt in lumbar area only. While in case of pattern 3 and pattern 4, though the source of the pain is in the lumbar spine, it can be joint, it can be muscle or ligament, while the patient feels the pain in the leg region. Further, ask the patient, is there any radiation of the pain? Is the pain centralizing or peripheralizing? It means, as you can see in the picture, peripheralization and centralization. Centralization means pain is restricted in the lumbar area itself, while as you go on towards the left, it starts coming down your leg. It might be restricted up to the knee itself, while in others it may be up till the big toe. So out of the two, centralization is considered to be a better prognostic characteristic as the pain is limited to a certain area, while in case of peripheralization, the area is much more bigger. Even if the patient complains of radiation, it doesn't mean that it has to be a disc problem every time. A patient comes up to you having radiating pain along the course of the sciatic nerve, like you can see here. Now, on reading the MRI, you see the disc bulges at the level of the L4 and L5. On examining the patient, he tells you that he has been having severe pain going down from his buttock down till his big toe. That means, though the disc bulge is there, but this has been not the cause or the source of the pain. Why? Because if it has been the disc which has been troubling the patient, he would have complained the pain from the lumbar area itself. While the patient complains only from the region of buttock. That means the source of problem is actually somewhere else. So on careful history taking, therapist gets to know that the patient has a habit of sitting cross-legged and facing one side. So this has led to pelvic discrepancies and piriformis muscle tightness. So, which has been causing him the pain. Now the next question would be, is the pain deep, superficial, shooting, or is there any burning sensation or aching? Now basically, all this will help the patient to locate the structure injured and what is the actual source of pain. Now the ninth question to ask the patient would be, is the pain improving, worsening, or staying the same? Asking this is very important as this will help the therapist to get an idea as if the patient is responding to the treatment or not. If no improvement in 3 months, patient is directly sent for the reevaluation as there would be any internal problem like inflammation. And also if the patient is complaining of more pain, more exaggerated pain than that condition would normally cause, consider patient sending for psychosocial testing. Is there any increase in pain with coughing, sneezing, deep breathing, or laughing? Now, all these activities are known to cause an increase in the intrathecal pressure. Which activities aggravate the pain and what activities relieve the pain? Asking this is the utmost important question as this will give an idea of what probable diagnosis could be. Now, again referring back to the table, for back dominant pattern 1, patient complains of increase in pain in case of flexion. So whenever he will bend forward, there will be an increase in the symptoms, while extension will cause a decrease or a relief in the symptoms. So this means that the probable cause could be disc involvement. Now, on pattern 2, if the patient says that whenever he tries to extend or rotate for, like for example, getting back to the shelf, also know that immediately on flexion, he feels that there is a decrease in the pain. Now, it can be the facet joint. Why? Because it is the facet which gets locked in case of extension and rotation. While on flexion, as the patient moves forward, there is an increase in the joint space between the two facets. Now, leg pain, pattern number 3. If the patient says that the patient is having pain in the leg, while flexion increases the pain and extension decreases the pain, it means it is the nerve root which has been impinged. It might be irritated because of the disc or because of the muscle tightness or any other reason. Then the fourth pattern means that the patient has pain in their leg which becomes further aggravated on walking. Now we know that walking accentuates extension pattern. So that means it is extension which is creating problem while while sitting or flexion decreases the pain or the symptoms. So this is referring to a condition called as stenosis or neurogenic intermittent claudication. So moving on, are there any postures or actions that specifically increase or decrease the pain? Now, whenever a patient approaches to you, he's not going to answer you in your medical language, right? So he'll be probably telling you that standing or walking or while he's lying down prone on his bed, he feels an aggravated pain. So that means it is the extension which is causing the pain. While if he says that while I'm sitting or bending, he feels that the pain somewhere settles down. It means that the flexion is the relieving pattern. So you can work and accordingly design the treatment plan as well. Now the 13th question would be, is the pain worse in morning or evening? Does the pain get better as the day progresses? Do you experience night pain? Now asking this is very important, like in cases of ankylosing spondylitis or osteoarthritis, patient complains of extreme morning stiffness, which takes about an hour to resolve completely, but it gets better as the patient becomes active throughout the day. In case the patient complains night pains, it is impossible for him to sleep and the pain does not decrease even after taking hot packs or walking. This means that there is something serious and it's better for asking the patient to reconsult. Question number 14 would be, is paresthesia or anesthesia present? Now, knowing it, paresthesia is pins and needle sensation. So the patient would be probably complaining of tingling in his leg. That can be probably because of some irritation of nerve, or another could be anesthesia. So anesthesia means that there is absolutely no sensation. Also look out for the dermatomal pattern in it. Now the question comes, what is the patient's usual routine or pastime activity? Now basically asking this, the therapist gets an idea as in how active the patient is or what are the usual postures he get into through his day. Now for example, in various countries, people get into hobby classes like pottery classes. So here there is sustained flexion for long hours, which is responsible for straining the spine and making the person much more prone for the lumbar pain. Now, the 16th question would be, what is the patient's sleeping position? What type of mattress does the patient use? Now here, as you can see, lying prone, the lumbar spine gets into extension. So if patient says that he has been having a relief in the symptoms whenever he gets into prone position, it means that it is extension which is getting him relief in the symptoms. Also, ideally the best sleeping position would be side lying with the pillows between your thighs, and this makes your curve into the best position. Then the question comes, are there any red flags that the therapist should be aware of? And it is absolutely necessary to ask the patient for his medical history. Do not skip this step. It's very important to ask generalized questions like, is there any loss of weight in the recent time? Or is the patient skipping on his meals? Because somewhere it is a hint of the underlying condition and you want to make the patient go and visit a doctor. Now ask the patient, is the patient on any sort of medication? Asking this is a very important question. As the example given here, long use of steroids make one osteoporotic. Osteoporotic bones are an absolute contraindication for manual therapy because giving excessive manual therapy can result into multiple fractures. So, and also For example, if the patient has taken any sort of painkiller before coming to the therapist, this will hinder in getting the true readings and mislead the examination. Now, the question comes, is the patient able to cope up with daily activities? Now, basically, we have got three scales to know. First one being Oswestry Low Back Disability Questionnaire, which is the commonest one being used in the clinics. Second one is Cubic Pain Disability Scale. And the third one, Roland Morris Disability Questionnaire. Now, basically, these questionnaires have got some common questions pertaining to daily life, which gives an idea as in how functional the person is and how easily he can do all his daily activities. Hope this helped you to get all the answers.